Welcome to the Popish Plot. I'm Nate.
I'm Jessica.
And I'm Mike.
And today we are here with the second installment of our September Saints. Now, as we discussed in the previous installment, if you haven't watched that, make sure you go back and do. It's a very good one.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Especially because of the different way we're doing September this year.
Mm-hmm.
In that we aren't just going through and giving you a laundry list of saints that most nobody's heard of.
Of lesser known saints.
Yes. We are actually we are actually taking two saints, of which most everybody is aware, but not necessarily everybody is familiar.
People know the name and very little else.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And for part 2, we are doing Saint Vincent de Paul. And I didn't have a space that fit in here that made sense, but when he wrote his stuff, he wrote de Paul as one word, because that way it didn't imply that he was royalty. Like, according to sources, it's possible that he got his last name, well, his family got the last name, because they were farmers near the river called the Paul.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Every single other person has put a space there.
Well, I mean, who knows how French things work. In English, we've made him Vincent de Paul.
He didn't want to put on airs. I appreciate this.
Which is funny, because in the first half of his life, he very much wanted to put on airs.
Totally wanted to put on airs. Mm-hmm. But there's a difference between putting on airs and trying to pretend to be royalty. That last bit can be very dangerous depending on your historical circumstance.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Good point.
So
who was Saint Vincent de Paul?
Well, now that we mentioned the fact that, he's French, he was born April 24th in 1581 in Puy, which is in Gascony, and the Kingdom of France. And because he's French, we're going to assume it's like Saint Teresa. It's like his actual name was Saint Vincent de Paul.
and he was born in Puy, in Gascony.
Oh.
And he died September 27th, 1660, so he was 79 in Paris.
A ripe old age.
And France was still a kingdom back then.
Yeah. It would still be a kingdom for another 100 and almost 30 years.
Yeah, the French ones aren't as exciting as like the Italians, where they lived through 5 different regime changes.
The French are currently on their 5th republic, with 2 empires mixed in there also.
Yeah, but
and Vichy France.
But it's always the Empire of France, the Republic of France, the French Republic, the French Republic in exile. Well, they don't change names.
They got a much earlier start. France is one of the earliest unitary states. Yes.
So they're like, we're Gaul, now we're France. We're keeping that name. We'll just change the governments as need be.
Because we're the Franks. Mm-hmm.
His feast day is September 27th, as is reasonable. However, it was July 19th in the 1737 to 1969 calendar.
Any reason why July 19th?
I have no idea why.
Because it's not his birthday. It's not his birth into eternal life day.
I mean,
interesting.
I don't know if maybe that was the day he became a priest, or the day that he became a priest officially, not following the rules.
They often did translation of relics.
Yeah.
Anyway, we don't know.
So he's got some really interesting patronages. Mm-hmm. He's also got some ones that are less surprising. I'm going to actually do these out of order just to keep it fun.
Awesome.
We've got horses, hospitals, a patron against leprosy, a patron for lost articles.
I assume finding them, but
Stop bothering St. Anthony of Padua.
The island of Madagascar, not the movie Madagascar. Prisoners, Richmond, Virginia. The Sacred Heart Cathedral Preparatory in California? San Francisco, California. Vincentian Service Corps. And now for some of the ones that are a little less surprising. A patron of charities. A patron of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul.
Shocking.
I am shocked beyond all belief. And also a patron saint of volunteers.
You missed spiritual help, because he was actually...
Oh, yes, I did. I did intend to come back to that one. Spiritual help, because I felt that fell in with along with all the charities, all the charity work that's done in his name.
And that is the only difficulty with jumping around. Sometimes it's hard to remember what you've covered and what you haven't.
Yes. Yeah. He was many things. He was a priest.
Mm-hmm.
He was
he had an incredibly dynamic life. Like, he fit a lot into 80 years.
Yeah, he was a founder or co-founder of the Congregation of the Missions a.k.a. the Vincentians, a.k.a. the Lazarites, and the Daughters of Charity, which was apparently like the first order of religious sisters in the area that were not cloistered. They went out and did stuff. In the
Confraternities of Charity.
However, he was not the founder of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul, which came about 150 years later, which makes sense because it would be weird to name it after yourself and declare yourself a saint while you're alive.
Although, in fairness, like...
It could be like a society, and then they're like...
It could have been the societies. It could have been the Society of Vincent de Paul, and after he was canonized, they changed the name. But
Well, it's like all kinds of things Don Bosco founded, were later renamed after Don Bosco.
And also an educator and a reformer.
So, along our discussion of not wanting to put on airs, St. Vincent de Paul was born to peasant farmers, not pheasant farmers.
Pheasant ranchers.
Not pheasant farmers, peasant farmers.
They might have been pleasant, but we know they were peasants.
They had 3 other boys and 2 daughters. He worked herding the family livestock as a boy.
He entered the seminary at the young age of 15 after the family sold their oxen to pay the tuition.
Yeah,
He was apparently ordained at the very young age of 19, although this was against regulations, which required a priest to be at least 24 before he was ordained.
And this wasn't local regulations. Like, apparently it is somewhere in the Council of Trent's records.
Well, I mean, it's a really good idea not to ordain a guy too young.
Yeah.
So when he was appointed a parish, it was appealed. He then went back to the university and ended up getting a Bachelor of Theology and a licentiate in canon law.
In the 20th century, the same thing happened to the Protestant pastor Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He graduated college, but it's like the law doesn't allow us to make you a pastor or whatever the prots do until a certain age. It was like, all right, I'm going back to school.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
and the point I was going to make about him going into school, going to seminary so early, is that we have to remember that schools, as we understand them today, are an entirely modern invention. Look back 150 years, and schools were much more of a different kind of a thing.
And then we
If they were available.
And then we just decided to adopt the Prussian model universally.
But yes. And apparently he was one of a couple of the boys that were actually seemed to be good at book learning, so that their family tried, to...
Yeah, he's got a future ahead of him that doesn't involve hurting animals. We should help him get that.
Yes.
And being a priest is generally holier than being a lawyer.
Although, pretty sure at the time he probably still would have gone to seminary to study to be a lawyer. He just,
Yeah.
like different tracks at university.
Yeah. Now, of course, formal seminary training was one of the reforms instituted by and after the Council of Trent. Because before then, priest training had been kind of slipshod.
Yeah. In some cases, it was more apprenticeship.
Which is not a terrible idea.
Not terrible. It's not a terrible idea. An apprenticeship actually works very, very well, as long as you have really good masters.
And in theory, we kind of do the same thing today with parochial vicars. Either as young priests, they're mentored by a more senior priest.
Yes.
Not say a senior priest.
They are a priest of the parish, but we're gonna ease you in to all the things that you'll eventually get to do.
You're just Father Parochial Vicar. You're not Father Pastor. Let's not be ridiculous.
But anyway, at this time...
Now, the controversial part of the story.
Yes.
At this time, he was still essentially... He became a priest because, like you said, priest and lawyer. These are ways that you make money and you get esteem and stuff if you're born,
If you weren't born to a merchant,
sheep.
Yeah.
So there is some question if the following story is true. It was found in some letters that he later wrote to a family, and by and large, we wouldn't no one disagrees that these are his letters. It's his handwriting, it's proof. The question
It's
is
like Paul's letters. I wrote this with my own hand.
The question is, A, the story seems a bit far-fetched. B, his information that he has didn't quite align with what was going on for people who knew that. And C, at the time, he was in debt to people and he magically disappeared for 2 years. Which resolved a number of the issues due to the fact that, back then you didn't have formalized bank things. If the person you were in debt to, died and no one...
And if they appeared alive again later, sorry, the debt was wiped out.
Yeah. But anyway, so according to the story, when he was sailing for Marseille, after selling some property he had inherited from a rich patron, because at this time he was working all the, trying to be, a priest, as in, wheeler and dealer, I'm the educated elite type thing. When he was kidnapped by Barbary pirates and taken to Tunisia, where he was sold into slavery and spent 2 years enslaved. Now, first apparently he was bought by a fisherman. However, he had severe seasickness, which does not help you in working fishing. So he was sold. And then he was bought by a physician, alchemist, and inventor.
Ooh, alchemist.
Yes. And this is one of those things that point to it being true, because he
then learned skills.
Learned various medical skills. Now, we would look at, some of the things that he did as a physician and be like, that's not medicine. That's, that's astronomy with more, astrology with more steps.
But as we know from Star Trek 4... future physicians will say the same thing about us.
Yes. I believe he worked with the four humors and, oh, you're too warm, let's let out some blood,
Let's not be too arrogant. They were working with the best knowledge they had at the time.
Yes. But
He then went on a trip to Istanbul.
With his owner, who was
not elderly. Constantinople.
Yes.
Oh, actually, at the time, it would be Constantinople. Only later did it become Istanbul.
Yes, who was elderly. That's why he was such a famed alchemist and stuff that, people were telling him to go to sleep.
Maybe he was unnaturally long-lived.
Well, he wasn't.
I mean,
he wasn't unnatural.
He was, reasonably old.
Whatever.
He was 63.
Whatever it was, he unfortunately on that trip became very naturally dead.
Yes, and some sources say that then he was owned by the nephew of the person, and some sources just say he was then sold to another person. And this is the part of the story that pretty much everyone agrees is not true. For starters, he did not include any of these details in his letters because that was added later. His letters are very vague, given that it is dealing with someone who still would have been alive and around at the time. And the name given, the dates that he came back versus the dates that St. Vincent came back do not line up right. So, in all probability, it was not this person, even if the pirate thing was true. Because it was said he was sold to a person named
Guillaume Gautier.
Who, according to the storyline, was a former Franciscan priest from Nice who had also been enslaved and then converted to Islam to be free, because at the time, if you were Muslim, they wouldn't make you a slave.
Yep.
He had 3 wives, the second of which was someone who had been born into Islam, and they went and visited Vincent as he was working in the fields, which is one of those things where people are like, you didn't let your secondary wife wander around with the male hired help. And she started asking about Christianity, and eventually most of the sources say she saw it was true. It doesn't say officially if she officially converted, or if it's just, she believed it. And she started, yelling at her husband for leaving the faith. At which point, he in St. Vincent went and made a plan for them to get back to Europe. And it took months, and eventually they made it back to Europe, and then there was, stuff there.
Back to Christian-controlled lands.
Yeah.
At the time, the Ottomans occupied a considerable part of Europe.
Yeah, it was, they largely hit, France/Rome in the storyline.
Yeah.
And none of the storylines explained what happened to any of this guy's 3 wives, which, I mean, clearly they're not legitimately his wives because he was already a priest, and that you can't have 3 wives, but they were 3 women who thought they were married to this guy who just ran off with the field hand. So that all that section is the most question mark on his life. We have great details and everything else, and there are scholars who are like, that totally all happened. There are scholars who are like, he was totally abducted by pirates. However, the name added to the 3rd story isn't true.
It's a fantastic story. Odds are at least some portion of it, if not the whole, is apocryphal and legendary, and do with it as you will.
Well, I mean, he wrote the story. He lived the life telling the story. Like,
Yes.
some
I'm
of the
just
best
saying.
points for it being true is later in life, after he had his great conversion, he still talked about being, a slave.
All right.
Again, this was a common experience for Europeans at the time. Because Muslims don't have other Muslims as slaves, so they would raid Christian lands for slaves. The United States, waged war against Barbary pirates as late as 1803.
Yeah. No, I'm not.
I don't. Yeah.
Meaning to dispute it. I'm
So,
simply.
okay, that part could totally be true.
I was offering the official stance.
The part about the Franciscan priest who converted and had 3
that
wives.
part seems like
very
He converted
unlikely.
and then converted back. Yeah.
That part seems like, again, he didn't mention that in his lifetime. It seems like pious fiction added later.
Yeah, it was more, and then I escaped with a person who had been a former, Christian who also had been enslaved, name withheld. Which is a believable, thing to have happened.
But in any case, he was now back in France. And in 1607, then went to Rome to continue his studies. In 1609, he was sent back to France on a mission to King Henry IV.
I know. I also question marked on French King Henry.
Yes.
No, that was a
I know
French
there are
King
French
Henry.
King Henrys. I know.
Well, and Henry IV is the particularly famous one because, again, in the late 1500s, France was roiled by the wars of religion. He was a prominent leader of the Huguenots and then converted to Catholicism to be crowned king. He said that, Paris was worth a mass.
Yes.
Wow. What a mensch.
Later assassinated by a overzealous Catholic.
No, that was a poor choice.
Absolutely. But yes, it is bizarre. It's like, wait, there are French kings allowed to be named anything other than Louis?
I know. I mean, I know it can take place because, that's what William the Conqueror was, so he could change his former nickname.
But he was never king of France. He was just Duke of Normandy.
Yes, but still.
Yeah.
He was technically almost in line, barring his original nickname.
This is why they fought the 100 Years' War, because they had a pretty darn good claim to the French throne, or at least large French lands.
But anyway.
In 1612, he was then a parish priest in Clichy, but soon...
I really hope that that's technically pronounced cliché. That'd be amazing.
Right. But soon was made the chaplain and tutor to the Gondi family. They were a family of Florentine nobility and financial partners with the Medicis.
All the monies.
All the monies.
Yes, they were the ones that most likely the Medicis looked up to because they were old school nobility. Like, they were rich and they had the bloodline. They weren't that new upstart with...
Yeah, the Medicis were new money at the time. So, in 1617, he had a very profound experience. He heard the confession of a dying peasant, and this changed him, because thereafter he no longer pursued wealth or a life of leisure. So, he's a priest, he's doing a lot of holy things, but at this point, he starts on the road really to being the saint that we know.
Yes. Up to then, he did things that could be holy or less than holy. He got his education. He helped other people. People who happened to be kings and elder nobles.
He had an inheritance that could be sold off to go on a sailing trip to Marseille.
From benefactors, because it wasn't his family inheritance.
Oh, I
They already sold the
no,
oxen.
I understand, but that's kind of my point, right?
Yeah.
Is that it was an inheritance from a benefactor, which means that he definitely got himself in good with somebody who had who had something to give.
So the next year, in 1618, he actually met St. Francis de Sales.
That would have been kind of cool.
The gentleman saint. And of course, this is something you encounter all the time. Saints know other saints.
Yeah, hopefully someday they'll talk about the time when we met Saint so and so, and for them it'll be like, oh, that'd be cool, and for us it's just like, no, we knew that guy.
We've established this is going to be fine. Saint Michael Wilson and companions. Saints who know other saints. This is going to be fine.
Excuse me. I don't believe that was the arrangement that we agreed upon.
I mean, he's been pushing for this since the beginning. But anyway,
I'm not the founder of Nathanism.
I didn't say it hasn't been out there. I just said we didn't agree upon this.
I'm confident we did.
all right. In 1643, he was made the spiritual advisor to Queen Anne, who at the time was France regent.
25 years later, for those keeping track.
Yep.
Yes. You could read
His
a lot
life has
of
been
important...
changed. He met a really good saint, and now we jump forward to a day in the life.
To the person who's in charge of France, because due to a bunch of stuff, her husband was dead. There were no kids that were old enough to rule. She's in charge, even though it's France and she's a queen, so it's like she's kind of in charge. But
My son says we're going to do this.
But anyway, and
Your son can't speak. Your son can't speak whole sentences yet. Yes, I know, but I am his mother. I know what he meant.
Anyway, and he advised her on various first, personal religious advisor, but also on religious policies, including at the time the issue of the Jansenists.
Jansenism is a heresy. It's been condemned as a heresy. It was essentially a syncretism of Catholicism with the dark worldview of Calvinism. It's no good. There's no room for mercy in Jansenism. It's rigorous and it's awful.
Yeah.
They love all the stuff where God's angry. They have the Bible where instead of Thomas Jefferson, who just cut out all the miracles and be like, there's what the timeline. There's just
they cut out all the mercy.
God said something was good. No, we're getting rid of this one. There's no Genesis 1. Their Bible starts with the fall.
There's just all the angry bits.
Go and sin no more. That's not what he said. It was, be glad I don't smite you.
They're like, and now the story of Exodus. The Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart. And again, and again, and again, and bad stuff happened. The end. What about other people? Bad stuff happened.
During St. Francis de Sales' life, he helped found hospitals, orphanages, homes for the mentally ill, and he also served prisoners and slaves. He died in 1660.
Almost like he had a special heart for those people.
Almost like he had a special heart for those people.
Yes.
He died in 1660 and was canonized in 1737. So he lived a good long life of 77 years for being in the...
No.
That's the length of time.
Oh!
He lived 79 years.
Oh, okay.
I was
Nope, you're right.
I did the math for you, so you know that he was canonized very quickly given the time.
Yeah, well, that's still pretty quick today.
Yeah.
Yes.
But for the time, extraordinarily quick. Again, because they
during his lifetime.
because they recognize his sanctity.
Yeah.
Yes, within the lifetime of one generation based on his lifespan.
Yes. Yes. This was after the point at which they had the formal process. So they had to do the local stuff and ship it to Rome and have Rome come up with yes, her name.
This is effectively people who may have known you when you were alive attending your canonization ceremony.
They'd be extremely old, but it's totally possible.
It could be an orphan or two.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, or just really cool things like when say Maria Goretti's murderer attended her canonization.
Yes, I heard that for Saint Carlo, his little brother, who actually was born after he died, was the one who did the first reading.
Cool. Oh.
I don't know. I imagine that would be horrible. Whenever he acts up, why can't you be like your brother, the saint?
It could be, or you've got a very powerful intercessor in heaven. So, the Vincentians continue their good works today. Originally, they specialized in conducting parish missions. I don't know how their mission has changed over the centuries. The Daughters of Charity continue today. There's so many different groups named the Daughters of Charity, so it's hard to keep track of which are which.
But they're all there. They're all doing good works.
And then, of course, there's the Society of St. Vincent de Paul, not in any way directly connected to him, but which continues to do great works inspired by his spirituality. So, St. Vincent de Paul.
Yeah, pray for us.
Amen. And may we all pursue holiness so radically so that whatever our state in life is, may we all have, whenever it happens, a powerful conversion like he did when he heard that dying peasant's confession.
Yes, which, according to some sources, which, of course, they have to be guessing because, he couldn't relieve too many details.
Yeah.
What was all essentially the peasant's secret sins that he was holding on to the last minute to get rid of that were about his own vanities and stuff. And it's like,
Yeah, get rid of that stuff now.
Yeah.
Don't hold on to it.
But still, I can imagine your whole goal is to, be better than the peasant background. And even the peasant's like, and then I have the problem of being vain and searching for.
Because, it is the love of money is the root of all evil. So it's not just people who have it. There's lots of people who don't, who really, really covet money.
So, go down below into the comments and leave a comment. I have a suggestion for you if you need one.
A prompt, if you will.
A prompt, if you will. I'm going to give you a hot take.
Ooh.
Here's my hot take. The song Escape, open parentheses, the Pina Colada song, close parentheses. You've probably heard it, because if you like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain, if you're not into yoga, and you have half a brain, yada yada. I'm going to argue.
Nate's hot take is...
This song is actually exceptional relationship advice. If you've heard the song, you may have opinions on that. If you haven't heard the song, go on YouTube and find the song, listen to it. Come back here.
Especially a version with the lyrics. Come back here and down below in the comments section, prove me wrong. This is great. Absolutely good relationship advice. I'm going to stand on that. And if there's enough people out there who really want to take me on, I will make my point here on the show. Nate's hot take is that a song ostensibly about marital infidelity is really good relationship advice. Fight him below.
Yep.
He also yada yada the yada yada part from Seinfeld.
Wow, yada yada. You skipped over the best part. No, I mentioned the lobster bisque.
Anyway, comment below with all the reasons why he is
wrong.
wrong.
Or great saints that you would like us to go and that you've heard of, but you'd like to know more about, and you would like us to go and give them the St. John Chrysostom / St. Vincent de Paul treatment.
Have you been kidnapped by Barbary pirates? What was your experience like?
Yeah, I'd like to know that one, especially because they haven't been around for a while. So if you've been kidnapped by them, this is a story I got to hear.
Maybe you're a long-lived alchemist. So give this episode a like, subscribe to our channel, ring the church bell to be notified the next time we talk about saints, pirates, infidelity, any of these things. All that and more.
Right here on the Popish Plot. And until next time, remember to live your faith.
Love your faith.
And share that love.